Hello, everyone. It's Victoria with Nutrition by Victoria, and welcome to today's video. I have really appreciated all the feedback that I've been getting on my recent uploads and that you guys have been enjoying my content. So, here is the latest and greatest from me. Today, we are going to be talking about calories and the calories in, calories out model. This is a concept that needs to be continued to be discussed because so many are trapped in this model of thinking about energy and in particular for weight loss. So I'm also going to be addressing fasting here and basically simplifying nutritional concepts for you so that you can better understand the human metabolism and what it requires in order to be at its most optimal level of functioning so that you can get the most out of your life. A high metabolism equals a high level of daily participation in your reality. It means a high level of performance in everything that you do in your life, your job, your family life, your fitness, whatever it is. Okay. So that's what I am here to help you achieve is a high functioning metabolism and um, a healthy, lean, fit body for life. So I always like to show myself as an example because I've done a lot of work over the last decade of rebuilding my own metabolism after coming from the calories in, calories out cult, is what I'll call it. I've done it all. I've taken stimulants, I've used caffeine, nicotine, I've taken appetite suppressants. I've never taken anything pharmaceutical like phentermine or Ozempic or Mounjaro or metformin or anything like that, or some of the gym drugs like clenbuterol. I've never taken any of those, but I did, do the whole try to eat as little as possible in order to be lean. And it failed miserably. I was about 23 years old when my health really started to tank because of the diet that I was following. I basically wasn't eating, and when I would eat, it would be not a whole lot because it would cause me a lot of digestive distress. I had a background of having a lot of digestive problems, of which I no longer have because once you get your diet on track, everything else this fixes itself. So this not only extends to looking good, but it extends to feeling good. And then these also translate to having optimal levels of health, which means disease prevention. And particularly, we're not thinking about this as we're young, but as we start to get older, I'm going to be turning 38 in 6 months. I'm starting to think about how my diet affects me and my likelihood of developing these diseases that they start doing diagnostic testing for as you start to approach 50, like colonoscopies, mammograms, things like that. And the thing about cancer that people need to realize is that it just doesn't pop up out of nowhere, okay? It's an accumulation of damage that's been happening for the last 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years, okay? And so that's going to be mainly on account of our diet and our lifestyle, as well as genetic factors. But a lot of people like to say genetics loads the gun, diet and lifestyle pulls the trigger. So we want to be rowing our boat in the right direction when it comes to preventative health so that we don't become subject to, the medical system and their attempt at, helping people deal with those kinds of health outcomes. Let's just prevent them from happening in the first place so that we don't need to become an experiment. But that gets into a whole other topic. So let's get into some nitty gritty in this video today. I'm going to be sharing my screen with you guys and just talking about the metabolism. So the first thing that I would like to do here is I was asked a question on some of my recent YouTube videos. A lot of people have been commenting and seeing my fun little shorts that I've been making. So I will be featuring Dr. Paul Saladino today in my video, as I've been kind of picking on him. He actually is a very well-educated person in regards to nutrition. Sometimes I find that I need to give somebody a chance to explain themselves, particularly in this community of nutrition influencers that are quite popular, like Thomas DeLauer. This video that I'm going to play a little clip of is an interview with Dr. Paul Saladino and Thomas DeLauer. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But these are the people who are leading the flock in regards to the, most amount of people. They have a really big reach and, getting information to them. So, this video has had 3.8 million, or no, it has Thomas DeLauer has 3.8 million subscribers, so his reach is astronomical. I'm not sure what Thomas DeLauer's background is, but he's got a lot of affiliates with Thrive Market, and he has his own podcast. And this video has 420,000 views on it. So I'm hoping to just contribute my knowledge to what these people are also contributing to the mainstream. That's my goal with my channel. I know I'm going to probably need to make some upgrades in terms of my video quality and things like that. But with your help, I'll be able to do that. So just make sure you're subscribing to my channel and hitting the like button if you're enjoying my content and finding it helpful for you, because really everyone is on this journey of figuring this out, right? And many people like Paul Saladino, claim that they know what's going on. But what I really appreciate about Dr. Saladino is that he is willing to be an experiment, and he's willing to change things up as it's not working for him. In particular, in this video, I'm not going to play the whole video because it is 48 minutes long. You can go and watch it yourself if you need something to do. I watched it yesterday when I was doing dishes. But he gets into talking about how he was carnivore and that diet started failing him. And I actually didn't know this. I thought he still was carnivore, but I don't follow a whole lot of social media either. So sometimes I have to do my own research. Anyways, then he started incorporating simple carbohydrates like honey and fruit into his diet, and he's felt a lot better. And the reason for that is because the carnivore diet and being in ketosis is like a whole, okay? You are slowing down your metabolism so much to preserve your body because it's in this state of famine. Even when you're just exclusively eating animal pieces and secretions, okay, your body is registering that there isn't food available, okay? So it's playing the ketosis role, and it's creating a lot of acids. It's damaging your system. It's downregulating thyroid hormone production. And Dr. Paul Saladino was smart enough to recognize these things and be like, okay, I need to change. Then he did a bunch of research, saw that fruit is beneficial for creating thyroid hormones because of the carbohydrate content. So he adds fruit to his diet. So he eats a fruit and animal protein-based diet. Um, what the carbohydrates in his diet do is they are going to prevent him from running gluconeogenesis all the time. So they're going to act as muscle protective. So he'll be using the fruit as carbohydrate energy, and he'll be using the fat that's in the food that he's eating for energy production as well. He's a pretty lean guy. He doesn't have a whole lot of fat on his body, so he's going to need a fat source in order to, keep the energy chain moving without, getting too low in body fat. A lot of people don't understand that we actually run a metabolism that requires carbohydrate and fatty acids to create ATP. And so we're always burning carbs and we're always burning fat. If you want to really learn the nitty-gritty about the human metabolism, you'll want to get a copy of my coaching program. I teach you everything in this crash course that's a little under 5 hours long, maybe about 5 hours long, of lesson material where I'm showing you exactly how the human metabolism works from an energy generation standpoint. And I go into a lot of other information as well, how to eat a diet to apply the information that you now have learned about, the human metabolism. But anyways, carbohydrates, they fuel our, they initiate the flame, the metabolic flame that we need in order to generate ATP. If we don't have enough carbohydrate available, our metabolism decreases in order to compensate for the lack of energy coming in. And then we start to play the B role of gluconeogenesis in order to fuel or provide enough glucose for energy production to continue. Okay. Ketosis is a last ditch effort. It completely shuts down, well, it doesn't shut down completely the oxidative phosphorylation or the Krebs cycle of ATP production. What it does is it down regulates it. So even when you are in full-blown ketosis, you are still utilizing the Krebs cycle via gluconeogenesis in order to create enough ATP for your system, because ketosis cannot create all of your energy that is required to stay alive. Okay, this is why people die when they run out of food eventually, because they run out of an ability to generate energy based on, living off of just your own flesh. Okay, because you get to a point where you start breaking down heart muscle tissue. Plenty of people die from anorexia. I know of somebody personally who did, and that's what they generally die from is cardiac arrest, because you start eating away at your heart tissue. Anyways, okay, so let's get into just going over gluconeogenesis again. So I brought up, what I talked about in my Brian Johnson video about metformin, because it is a drug that inhibits the process of gluconeogenesis. So gluconeogenesis, I'm going to bring up my coaching program now here, is a state, a metabolic state that we enter when we are without food. Okay, so we generally start turning the metabolic wheels of gluconeogenesis about 18 hours after we've last eaten. So this is heavily dependent on how much glycogen we can store. Okay. Some people can store more than others. If you regularly eat enough and eat big meals, then your glycogen is, and you're a trained athlete, then your glycogen is going to last you longer than somebody who eats very small meals, under eats on calories, and is not a well-trained athlete. So low VO2 max. Okay. So the more you eat and the higher your VO2 max is, the better your glycogen retention is going to be. You can also build up the ability to hold more glycogen. Okay. In well-trained athletes, they can hold up to 8 pounds of glycogen. Okay. So that's going to be their power during exercise, where they're not having to eat something, that's just their battery storage. Once you run out of glycogen, though, you're going to turn on gluconeogenesis. And like I said, this is going to be different for everybody depending on what it is that you're eating and your storage capacity for glucose, okay? Because that's what glycogen is. It's the storage form of glucose that we have eaten, okay? If we're not eating the glucose, we're having to make it from our muscle tissue predominantly, which is what happens after we've turned on gluconeogenesis. We start to degrade muscle protein to use amino acids for glucose. This means you are breaking down your muscle tissue. Are you still burning fat? Yes, but you are burning it at a slower rate, okay? Because as soon as gluconeogenesis gets turned on, our metabolism, our metabolic rate goes down, okay? What also happens during this time is that cortisol is what initiates this, okay? So as soon as we run out of glycogen, our cortisol level goes up, okay? And this boost, okay, it's like a boost in energy because that's what cortisol is. It's like adrenaline, right? It's a glucocorticoid. This helps us to go find food. Okay. So as our glycogen starts to run out, and actually everybody experiences this after you've slept. Okay. Because cortisol is naturally elevated in the morning. And the reason it's elevated is so that you get out of bed after you've been sleeping and you go find food. Maybe you have to do some exercise to go find that food. So a lot of people like to train in the morning, like myself, and then you eat afterwards. So you're kind of portraying how nature would have, how nature's designed your natural circadian rhythm and hormonal regulation to be like, right? You sleep overnight, you use up a lot of glycogen overnight, and then you get your cortisol spike in the morning that gets you up, gets you moving to go find food. What happens if you don't find food here, though? Okay, is you start to break down your protein, your muscles. Okay, a lot of people, this is where they live, in gluconeogenesis. If you're constantly running gluconeogenesis, guess what your insulin sensitivity is going to be like? It's not, okay? You're not going to be insulin sensitive. You're going to be insulin resistant. And a lot of people don't have any clue what insulin resistance means, but it means that this is the metabolic state that you've been hanging out in. And this is the metabolic state that most people who are overweight or obese are currently in, because at some point you're eating, right? So you fluctuate between being in a fed state and being in a fasted state. And if you're carb restricting, okay, you're eating some carbs, but not a lot. You're calorie restricting, you're eating some food, some calories, but not a lot. Then this is where you're living. You're living in gluconeogenesis as soon as you run out of carbohydrates, okay? It takes a while to get into ketosis. You have to spend at least 48 hours in gluconeogenesis before you get into ketosis, okay? And then ketosis, it will shut down the muscle protein degradation process as you run out of oxaloacetate which is your um, kindling for your AT or your Krebs cycle, your TCA cycle, your ability to generate ATP. And then, with ketosis, you're able to burn fat. So you're going to go exclusive to fat burning. This is why people who do the carnivore keto diet, they eventually find that they need to shift their diet into being fattier and less focused on protein because the protein that they're eating is now turning into glucose, which is going to affect their fasted blood sugar levels, which can lead to, and this is all because due to insulin resistance, right? So you start creating glucose from the protein that you're eating, and then it raises your blood sugar. And then you're not releasing insulin because you're not eating carbohydrates. So then your body can't put that sugar into your cells. So it creates it's just metabolic damage. Okay. That is the best way to describe what happens when you get into this stage. Okay. So then you see people like Kelly Hogan is a really good example where she said, well, now I have to eat more fat and eat less protein, right? So what are you eating? You're eating lard and butter, and there's no nutrition in these foods, right? Um, in order to keep ketosis going. And the thing is these people would severely fail glucose tolerance tests. You have to drink like 10 ounces of dextrose in water and in order to test for insulin sensitivity, and they would just fail it like horribly. Byproducts of being in ketosis metabolically would be at metabolic acidosis, so you are going to be peeing your bones down the drain. So a lot of osteoporosis in women in particular, because it seems like it's a disease that affects women more than men, is because of this, staying in gluconeogenesis for too long, and most women have a past history of dieting and don't eat enough carbohydrates in order to protect their body from the, degradation that occurs from insufficient carbohydrate intake. Then I just talked about hyperglycemia, blood sugar, being out of control when you're in ketosis, and dehydration. And then I have a note here, gluconeogenesis and ketosis lower the metabolic rate to promote energy conservation and prevent extensive muscle wastage during times of inadequate glucose availability. And this all results in what's called adaptive thermogenesis, or the change in the rate of the metabolism in response to inadequate fuel intake. So what I want to go into next here is back to this. So studies in humans have shown that metformin inhibits the process of gluconeogenesis. Why would somebody take metformin to begin with? Because they are showing signs via their A1C or their fasting glucose that they are insulin resistant. So I'm talking about elevated fasting glucose here, and I'm talking about an elevated A1C, which would mean that your blood sugar over the last 3 months has been elevated or all over the place. It's not in range. And what happens when your blood sugar is out of range, okay? When it's too high, you're going to release a lot of insulin that's going to drive it down too much. So you're going to fluctuate between hyperglycemia and hypoglycemia. And what's going to happen to bring your blood sugar back up after it's gone too low is cortisol. Okay. So then we're entering this state of gluconeogenesis. So when you're spending your time in gluconeogenesis due to poor blood sugar regulation, which is linked to, in general, under eating of carbohydrates. Okay, let's go back to this here, the dietetic factors influencing glucose tolerance in the activity of insulin. This is the Journal of Physiology, and H.P. Hemsworth. Okay, this is a text from 1934. H.P. Hemsworth determined how to test for glucose tolerance. Okay, he developed the glucose tolerance test, and this was his findings from his clinical research is that it is now established that the sugar tolerance, so your blood sugar regulation, okay, your insulin sensitivity is impaired by starvation, fasting, intermittent fasting, carb restriction, calorie restriction. Okay. All of those terms are the same thing. They're all starvation. Okay. They're all telling the body there's not enough food available. Okay. We are in a famine situation. Our biomechanics are really simple. We either have enough food available or we don't. Okay. So it is now established that the sugar tolerance is impaired by starvation or the taking of diets with a high content of fat, whilst it is improved by taking diets containing an excess of carbohydrate. Why is this though? Why is it that a high fat diet doesn't impairs glucose tolerance? There's multiple reasons for this. One, too much myocellular fat accumulation. So this is what a lot of the research is showing about seed oils is that this fat is accumulating inside of the cell that is inhibiting, the process of sugar getting out of the blood and into the cell for energy production to take place. Okay. But the other thing is that, not having enough glucose available is causing a problem too. And I'm talking about, this gluconeogenesis thing. So also when your diet is too high in fat, okay, let's say you've got a high fat diet and it's a low carb diet. But you're still taking in enough carbs that you're not in ketosis. Because whenever you're eating some carbs, you're out of ketosis. Ketosis, your grams of carbs has to be extremely low. Okay, so we're gonna bring this back up. I really highly encourage you guys to get my coaching program. I'm not going to go over, every single little detail in here because I want you to have the information available for yourself. And I go over all of it. I teach you every single little thing in here. So these are all the notes. And then from the notes, you can get my video explanation. So, okay. I talked already about oxaloacetate here. All right. This is showing here that carbohydrates feed into, this is the TCA cycle. Okay. The carbohydrates feed into the TCA cycle, creating this compound called pyruvate. All right. We want this acetyl-CoA. Okay. But the thing with acetyl-CoA is that we prefer to get it from pyruvate from carbohydrates. Okay. Fatty acids can contribute to and do contribute to acetyl-CoA, but they need oxaloacetate. See, you can see it twice on here in order to create pyruvate from fatty acids. Okay. So if you don't have oxaloacetate, which is created from carbohydrate, then you downregulate this whole system. Okay. Fat burns in the flame of carbohydrates. All right. In order to fuel this process, you need oxaloacetate to be available. So as soon as your carbohydrate intake decreases and oxaloacetate starts to run out, that's when gluconeogenesis turns on. Okay, so just sharing the importance of carbohydrates. So let's get into Paul Saladino here. And then I want to address the question that I was asked on one of my videos. Okay, so let's listen to Dr. Paul. So what he's talking about here is insulin sensitivity. Okay, so When you have a high functioning metabolism, you are insulin sensitive, which means the energy that you're taking in through your diet, and energy is carbohydrate, okay, is able to be converted into ATP for usable energy for you to use, to heal your body, also to, get fitter. But in order to do anything internally, okay, we need to have energy available. So this gets into, uh, somebody brought up to me about Chef AJ and how she's constantly running like a calorie deficit, right? And doing this water fasting. How is that going to heal her body? Okay. When she's constantly in starvation mode, it's not, it's going to down regulate that ability to heal because it's not a priority. What is a priority is making enough energy so that our brain continues to work, so that our heart continues to pump, and these autonomic functions continue. But if we want to heal tissue damage, we're going to have to take in enough calories in order to support that. And we have to be insulin sensitive in order to encourage that. Dr. Saladino right now is going to talk about how people who are overweight, but this even applies to people who are not overweight, aren't able to efficiently use the energy that they take in, so they store it. And that means that you're insulin resistant. I love this because Dr. Paul here is debunking the calorie model, right? I also don't know anyone who is overweight or obese who eats more than I do. And I have a BMI currently of 21. Okay. And I notice in the clients that I work with, the ones who struggle to lose weight also have a fear of eating enough, and it's eating enough that's going to drive up the metabolic rate via, providing sufficient carbohydrates for pyruvate and having that oxaloacetate stoking that TCA cycle fire for energy production. This is what people need to know so that they can become healthy and lean and high functioning metabolism and insulin sensitive. Okay, all of this is so important for people to understand so that they can start living a life of food and body freedom. What I question about these people, right, is one, who are they even, who is he talk, who's Thomas DeLauer talking about that you're consulting? Like most people who are in the world of nutrition right now are not educated. Okay, they took some like 6 week nutrition course, okay, by some, fitness institute or health institute, and they have no understanding of human metabolism whatsoever. So, when you go through nutrition textbooks, they don't talk about calories in versus calories out. They just show you where, you know, these molecules go in terms of, biochemistry. So I just think it's funny that, they're, oh, let's have this debate. Like, is this a true thing? It's like, who are these people that you're talking to? Because it should be me in this panel. And he's right, it's not the answer. And why? Why isn't moving more and eating less the answer? You guys can comment down below if you know the answer before I can get to it. Okay, but let's do a countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, who got the answer right? Gluconeogenesis. That is why eating less and moving more doesn't work because it puts you in this state. And when you're in this state for too long, where do you end up, metabolically speaking? Okay, somebody tell me the answer. I should just do a live so you guys can tell me the answer. Okay, what am I doing right now? Boom. You end up needing this medication that inhibits the process of gluconeogenesis because you're now insulin resistant. So, who thinks that this is one of the greatest scams in all of, nutrition history, right? All you have to do is convince people that carbohydrates are bad for you, okay? And calories are bad for you. So then you don't eat them, or you follow these 1,200 calorie a day meal plans, 1,500 calorie a day meal plans, because they do work. You will lose weight. You'll lose fat and you'll lose fluid and you'll lose muscle and you'll end up insulin resistant. And then you're going to have this insulin resistance and you're going to start developing all these other health problems that are going to come with it. Hypothyroidism, liver damage. You're going to yo-yo diet and yo-yo with your weight. You're going to have blood sugar issues. A lot of these metabolic problems are going to be dependent on your genetics. But regardless, you're going to end up with metabolic damage. And the only way out of it is to eat your way out of the famine, because that's all that you've been convinced to do is tell your body that you're in a famine. Okay. And depending on your genetics, right, you might deal with the famine just fine, or you might deal with the famine not so well. For people who have always struggled to lose weight and they've always kind of been heavier people, that's generally because your genetics have been programmed to favor fat storage, because in your genetic history, there has been famine situations, probably, more than once. Okay. If you look at the Samoans, you look at the Pima Indians, you look at a lot of people who come from Europe, Eastern Europe, Ireland, a lot of these folks end up with obesity and obesity related problems because it's in their genetics to be programmed for fat storage based on being in famine situations. So there is a solution, though. Everybody can be fit, lean, and healthy, okay? But you have to eat the right diet. So you have to eat enough of the right foods and you have to eat the right foods. Okay. So I can hear my little buddy starting to wake up. Let's see, if these guys have anything more to say here before we end the video. I just love what Dr. Paul knows about the metabolism because he is educated. But like everybody, you have to kind of trial and error, figure out what works for you. And it seems like he's big in this like animal food thing right now. But somebody left a comment. Actually, that's what I'm reading right now is the comments. Okay, that's better for copyright purposes anyways. Okay, let's see here. I am on my just looking at my YouTube shorts that I recently put up, and there's been some really good comments here. This one is by actually I can pull them up on YouTube. Sorry guys, my tech ability is improving, so bear with me. Okay, your videos. Hope you all are doing well today, and thank you so much for your continued support. Leave a comment if you've gotten this far in the video, and today we're going to comment date because they're my favorites. Okay, here's my shorts. Okay, here we go. I just put this one up. Gosh, I have to go to viewing mode. Sorry, guys. Dashboard. Oh, I guess I'm not even on the right place. Okay, here we go. I wanted to play the shorts. Okay, yeah. So we'll go to this one first. Okay. So I gotta pause it. Let's see here. Somebody asked if the testimonial is to be believed, then for him, it resolved or lessened those things. How can it resolve, lessen those things, and cause them at the same time? Really good question. I responded with the initial benefits come from overall calorie restriction and immune suppression due to the chronically elevated cortisol. So, he's getting that gluconeogenesis train rolling. But his cortisol on carnivore is going to stay elevated because you are going to be converting the protein in the meat into glucose, which is what's going to drive the insulin resistance combined with the chronic, elevation of the cortisol. Uh, it is not sustainable though and will eventually result in a rebound and even worse health markers afterwards. A carnivore diet doesn't fix insulin resistance, it causes it. So this guy would have done a lot better on my protocol, a high carb, low fat, sufficient protein diet. Um, there was another really great carnivore indeed can make you drop weight by making you sick. It will also cause AFib, hair loss, iron overload, and much more. It's never worth it, mostly, although I can see how someone could make the case if they have dental issues, do it for that reason alone. Carnivore is going to cause dental issues due to the acids from the metabolic acidosis from being in ketosis. A high carb intake can often lead to tooth decay if you aren't careful or if you already have toxicities and damage from the past. A high carb diet is actually going to buffer that by turning off the ketosis and the muscle degradation and bone loss. Okay, a lot of bone loss comes from being in ketosis. We're going to basically be dumping calcium in order to neutralize the acids that are circulating in our blood in order to protect our system. Um, I have been eating a high carb diet for over 10 years and I've never had any dental issues after I had the issues that resulted from me under eating addressed. So I've never had any issues since. My teeth have always been, perfectly healthy when I go in there. Okay, so we're going to do this one next. So I loved making this little video because he talks about having brain fog eating rice, and that is because he eats too much fat in his diet. So the rice, because it's so concentrated in glucose as opposed to fruit being more of a break or more of a combination of fructose and glucose. Fructose doesn't require insulin in order to be metabolized, so it's not going to have as much of an impact on your blood sugar. So eating something really high in glucose like rice, when you're eating this high fat diet, it's going to expose that you are insulin resistant. I think Paul Saladino should take an actual oral glucose tolerance test because it's going to show that as well, that his high saturated fat diet is not working well for him, um, uh, blood sugar wise, okay, and metabolically speaking. So let's read some of these. Hi, Victoria. Does your coaching include options for those that eat animal protein? I am interested. Yes, it does. I'm going to encourage you to eat more plant foods, but if you're not, ready to give up animal protein and you want to include that in your diet, I can work with you and get your metabolism healthy regardless. Okay, would non-fat Greek yogurt and honey be the only animal foods you recommend? I don't recommend consuming dairy products due to their estrogenic effects. A lot of people hate on soy, but uh, cow products contain way more estrogen than soy in comparison. So it would be better to consume some kind of non-fat plant-based yogurt, or better yet, how about some frozen bananas blended up into a banana whip or banana ice cream with some coconut sugar or maple syrup on top. That would be a better option. Honey, the problem with that is that it's highly inflammatory because it's bee vomit. Okay, so bees go and suck up a bunch of pollen and then they go back to their hive and they vomit it up. So it's going to contain pollens as well as bee saliva. So if you have any kind of sensitivity to pollens, or any kind of grass allergies, or you're allergic to bees, you're going to want to stay away from honey. So maple syrup or coconut sugar or regular sugar would be a better option. This one was funny. Saladino looks fantastic. He is in shape, is sharp, energetic, and has seen schools from the inside. Might, and that's because he's actually a medical doctor. Might be he is diabetic and full of cancer soon, but till then. And it's just funny because, like, unfortunately, the diet that he's eating is programming him to be insulin resistant, and it's full of IGF-1 promoting animal proteins, which is going to increase his risk for tumor development. And I wouldn't be surprised if Saladino takes other pharmaceuticals. He definitely has that like look to him. He also looks dehydrated from the diet that he follows. Okay. How does he not know this? I don't know, but a lot of people don't. That's why I'm out here sharing sharing the information, because I wonder if people actually like read their textbooks and actually understood the information. I know when I initially did, it was just like, I'm memorizing this. I'm not actually understanding its application. And, you know, 15 years later, here I am explaining it to you so that you can understand it and can get the best quality of life out of the information. Okay, somebody says salad. I know. Yeah, he would probably benefit from eating a salad. There's a lot of carnivore, ex-carnivore people who transition into eating like iceberg lettuce. A lot of them claim that they've had these vegetable sensitivities. Now, vegetables, if we were to get into it, right, they can contain and they do contain toxins and anti-nutrients because it's the plant's way of protecting itself. A really good example of this is going to be like your nightshades, potatoes, tomatoes, peppers, eggplant. Some people are sensitive. I find that I'm sensitive to them if I eat them consecutively, so I have to like take a break. And that solanine compound is, or glycoalkaloid, is designed to prevent you from eating it. Okay. But I still have deer come by and they're not supposed to eat tomatoes, but they do. So I think that's funny. But if you are sensitive to vegetables, you can stick with low toxin containing vegetables like iceberg lettuce. You can favor a lot of the botanical fruits, so the non-sweet fruits, which would be like cucumbers. I find that celery is okay, but one time I feel like I had a reaction from drinking too much celery juice all the time. Some people have like grass allergies and get hay fever, so you have to like be aware of your vegetable amount in that intake. So maybe staying away from like green juices and a place where you're like heavily concentrating the vegetables. Also, cooking vegetables will decrease a lot of their, toxic components. I grow broccoli, and I'll tell you, I understand why it contains the anti-nutrients that it contains, because you're literally killing and eating an unflowered plant. So, how far do you want to take it? Fruit is always the safest option because we are frugivores at heart. That's what our physiology is designed for. We do really well on a high fruit diet. I don't think you need to eat an exclusively fruit diet. I find that white rice complements a fruit based diet really well because you are dealing with some grain product that's been altered and refined a little bit to take away some of the lectins and anti-nutrients and things like that. So if you are coming from a place of sensitive digestion or just like poor health and looking to improve your health, a fruit and rice-based diet, which is what Walter Kempner used back in the 1930s, 40s era to heal his patients that were coming in with like hypertension and diabetes and heart disease, and it worked just fine. Okay. The man eats 300 grams of carbohydrates per day by eating a lot of fruit. Explain why he feels very healthy with that if he had insulin resistance. And I said, fruit doesn't require as much insulin to be metabolized because it contains a lot of fructose. So I already answered this, rice is higher in glucose, so it's going to show insulin impaired insulin tolerance better than fruit would, which is why when you go and do an oral glucose tolerance test, they're not using something that contains fructose. They're using 100% glucose solution in the form of dextrose, usually, which is like corn, refined corn sugar. Okay. But yeah, I think that is about it for this video. I'm going to take a look at this one here. Okay, so this is the short that I just made today, and I'm about to wrap this video up, but I figured, I might as well make these like, longer like podcast style videos. Anyways, the comment here is so crazy because I followed all of them for so long. Now, following you and Freely, I am on the road to recovery. It is wild. Everything you preach is true. It just takes us time to finally realize it. My digestion is finally better, skin clear, sleeping at night, good energy levels, and got off the caffeine. So all of those YouTubers that I just listed promote calorie restriction or low calorie density diet, which is AKA calorie restriction, because they're using low calorie density eating to create a calorie deficit. And they all use caffeine in some form or another, whether it's chocolate or coffee, which are the most common forms of it. How are you supposed to not, use caffeine if you are under eating because you need like a boost, because you're going to feel tired, you're going to feel cranky, you're going to feel moody because you're, depleting your glycogen stores, you're running into gluconeogenesis, and you're going to be adrenal exhausted from the constant cortisol elevation. So it's really great to hear that this pretty little plant-based Chica figured it out, and that's what me and Freely are here to do, is to spread information and share, the misinformation out there as well. But yeah, so that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Leave any comments or questions down below. If you are interested in my coaching, I'll leave a link in the description box of this video. For my coaching services, I offer one-on-one coaching. You can pick up my coaching program there. Actually, I'm going to put my coaching program on sale for the next 48 hours just for you guys. And I think I think it's listed for, I can't remember how much money I have it listed for, but I'm going to put it on sale, just the coaching program. And then I also have a coaching group where you can ask me unlimited Q&A questions. So you don't even have to do like a one-on-one call with me. You can just sign up for my coaching group and, use that unlimited lifetime membership for me coaching you during your transition to a healthier metabolism. Okay, again, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Leave me also comments for more content that you'd like to see me create, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.